footage from Taiwan eventually. Like there's no boring footage from
Hmm.
Taiwan. Yeah, I don't know where this dialogue, dialogue came in, which of the Stuart Smith Grand Temple scenes, but one of my favorite, like, unnecessarily profane exchanges happens in one of their adorable office scenes. And Grand Temple says, "There's a bunch of assholes fucking up in the harbor area, but Tiger can handle them. So therefore they can just continue sitting there."
Exactly, that's right. This scene is amazing. And we sort of in Ninja the Mission Force, I kind of ripped off searching for the MacGuffin in a deflated basketball. But who thought of this scene? It's amazing.
Isn't it in this scene where there's a wonderful piece of teleporting
Yes,
using a
yes, there
basketball? So
is.
we won't spoil it. We can do one of a few super screen specific moments when that scene comes up. So just interrupt me when we get to it.
Well, and also real quick, the dubbers must have had a heck of a time. They've always got to have these scenes where they have to come up with a bunch of just fluff dialogue to fill lip flap for unimportant scenes like, "Oh, sure was a good game today. Yeah, when are they going to come by? Yeah, boy, how about that one?"
Do you
Like,
have my
oh,
stapler?
yeah, exactly.
But yeah, the most notorious and best known legacy of IFT that was maybe not later copied by Filmark because they came. I mean, I think shortly after Filmark started making their own ninja action movies. But it was the idea of latching. Oh, here we are. I mean, teleporting through a gate that way is just.
What gets me is that they absolutely, completely, perfectly lined up the guy.
Yeah,
Between,
it
between
looks good.
cuts.
It looks so good. It's like the jump cut is pretty convincing, but like the basketball and few through the gate, like that's ninja power. That's awesome ninja power, and yeah, there it is. And this is the best known legacy, and like inspired by Enter the Ninja, but some moments are pure inspired lunacy that obviously is better than anything Enter the Ninja provided. So good on Godfrey and the action directing team for creating this. But yeah, when they put together these cut and paste movies featuring some of their own shot action footage, but usually, the bulk of the movie was a source movie. They sourced movies from Thailand, Korea, Taiwan, the Philippines, and even Hong Kong every now and again. Filmark did it more, IFT did it every now and again. It's very rarely they went to Hong Kong for the source movies. And Richard Harrison was one of the actors that were cut into these movies. Not pleased about, as we said, how many movies he was cut into. And that, he represented a ninja action plot of movies such as Ninja Terminator, Ninja the Protector, Ninja Thunderbolt. And these were not high art, obviously. And Joseph Lai would always, and will always correctly say, because he's still with us, that they were aware of the film's limitation, but they were aware of the film's market power. And I think that's an important stance. Knowing the quality of your work, but knowing like exactly what the purpose of it all is, like what the market likes. I think the market found this fun to a degree. Some might not have known what they were getting. They just saw the ninja poster and that's awesome. Let's get that. But I think they must have even at that time the fun must have shown through a little bit. I hope so. Anyway, obviously I wasn't alive. Well, I was alive, but I wasn't aware of this when it occurred. But yeah, they are incredibly tough to follow at times. We established this movie isn't. But there is an energy present in these films that is both entertaining and if you're a fan of B movies, and if you are fascinated by, or rather if you put yourself into the mindset of a unit like IFD from a business perspective, it's pretty fun to follow. It's all about satisfying your market, and they made like, if we have like 6 or 7 or 5 or 6 really fun movies out of 10, and the rest were incredibly boring dreck, then that's not a bad like job done. That bus stunt, by the way, where Edmund goes out of the bus, really, like, it looks. They probably put a pane of glass there. There isn't hard to jump through, but those kind of stunts, man, it still gets me because you got to bring talent to execute a stunt like that they don't telegraph. He just does it. He needs to get out of the bus. Boom, through the glass.
His mother was right. He is a maniac.
And demand was high when IFT started distributing like this. They couldn't supply the market in time, so they started working from already present products in their vaults, like their movie Fury in Red, which is based on which is the English dubbed version of the Taiwanese Miss 45 called Girl with a Gun. They later reused that and made it into a cut and paste movie called Crackdown Mission, starring Pierre Kirby. So that's that. By the way, I have a little note here. Grant Temple shared working with Richard Harrison in this scene, and he was kind of jolted. So I got to quote Grant Temple here. Richard said to me, "When I come into your office, I'm going to be very aggressive. Remember, it is just acting." He grabbed me so hard and yanked me into his face so fast I almost had whiplash. I had bruises on my chest for weeks. Ow!
Oh,
And
no.
if you watch the clip or rewatch that part of that scene, you will notice I'm completely taken off guard, which actually makes it a little bit more realistic. So that's a Grant Temple's experience with Richard Harrison. I hate everything.
Richard Harrison comes in pretending that everybody is Godfrey Ho.
Yeah, exactly. Did he call me Godfrey right now? Yeah, so Crackdown Mission happened. It's a case of them recycling, which is good economics when they recycle what they already have in their vaults. They never stole stuff. Like that was a misconception too, that when they took unfinished movies or stole movies. And I hate that, like, misinfo actually, because they're business. You can't go around doing that extensively. Not at all. I mean, they stole music. That's not good. But hey, they never got into trouble, I suppose. But the whole theft is something I get a bit irked about when I hear. Still here to this year. During this year, I read an article here in 2015 that kind of stated that these movies were unfinished and stolen, but they weren't. But yeah, that's a wrap. Let's see, where were we? I mean, it seems simple in a way to like just tap into the ninja craze of the 80s, but they did it well. I mean, they provided a good entertainment for quite a lot of movies and showcased movies from elsewhere that has benefited me, like some of these Taiwanese cinema classics. I can finally see them almost complete and almost similarly plotted as they were originally. And that has action and energy, and again, Godfrey Ho's footage also had action and energy, and yeah, it's the element that sold were the ninjas, and they often executed within those scenes. And true for Ninja Operation Night and Warriors, well, that it all the energy is there. You know what I mean? Like, we're never bored by the ninja action, even though it never lasts for 30 seconds at a time. But hey, it's good. It's really good fun.
Absolutely.
That brings up the question, like, what is it about Godfrey Ho's cut and paste cinema experience that is still so much fun for you when it is fun? I mean, the majority of the time it is fairly good. Some of the movies are really, really fun. Some of them are boring, but in general, why is it so much fun?
Right. Well, I think you used a word earlier, lunacy, that I think is particularly accurate. You have crazy, colorful costumes, lots of elaborate fighting and sets. Well, not sets, but costumes, and robots delivering videotapes with ninja messages, teleporting with clouds of smoke and things like that. And then on top of that, I am particularly fascinated by movies that
Holy
are repurposed.
Crap!
Yeah.
That stunt. No, it was not even slow motion. That looked like real speed. My God, that could have hurt.
He has no fear.
Possibly the actor, by the way, is called Yao Ming Yin. He was listed at the top of HKMDB, and there was a screen cap featuring the headband, and it looked like him. So Yao Ming Yin on top of a fucking car as well. And
I know.
man, my God, Jackie Chan had a
crazy.
competitor in Taiwan that few people knew about. So hey, good on IFT for taking this movie and highlighting the action aspects at least, even though we never got a wide release of the original movie.
Absolutely.
But yeah, your Godfrey Ho IFD assessment, if you had any
Oh,
more.
sure. No, I think the only other thing I was going to say is that I just have a fascination with the ways that movies are repurposed for other cultures, either remade or reworked. And this is an unusual one.
I mean, IFD wasn't the one who came up with let's mix footage from different sources and make a new movie. I mean, you can track that back to American cinema in the 60s and 70s and even 80s, I suppose. Roger Corman did it every now and again, I think. So
Sure, but it's the way in which it's done, and the movies that are chosen, and all of that, whether or not they're the first.
Ninjas was not the only thing they did. When that had done its thing, that was a phase. It didn't last very long. Lost for a fair amount of years in the 80s, but it did stop. IFD will go on with the kickboxing trend, because thanks to Bloodsport, Kickboxer, the popularity of Jean-Claude Van Damme, that genre boomed. Modern action thrillers were also... So they pursued making kickboxing cut-and-paste movies, but they also pursued the modern action thriller angle with the American Commando series and even superhero movies, mainly the 2 Catman movies that we've covered. So, across the globe in bargain bins, I think it's still the case. You find the ninjas and the kickboxers and even animated children's cartoons bearing the Joseph Lai name. And I gotta tell you, it's a bit of a legacy. After all, he's been around and provided a fair amount of good entertainment for the masses, because without him stepping in, we wouldn't have the widely distributed aspects to either ninjas, kickboxing, or animated movies from Korea in this case. And I find enjoyment in that, personally. A lot of enjoyment in that. And also it's been a joy as a collector to be able to access not only the movies easily, but even in more deluxe form. Because there's sought out widescreen versions put out in Japan of these movies. We're watching a French VHS widescreen print. Greece and Germany were also good markets for widescreen versions. So I think it matters. If you can access widescreen even for these movies, it matters so much. Seeing the Garfield phone footage in full widescreen matters. And I'm saying that with a little bit of humorous tint, I suppose, but it does very much matter to see these movies play, or these products play on their actual terms.
What is Vivian wearing in this scene? She's like a space babe.
A Space Thunder Kid, maybe. I'm not.
Space Thunder Kid.
Yeah. So let's just go over the last bit of a rumor. There isn't so much misinfo, but rather one guy has one angle of the story, and a couple of other guys have another angle of the story, and that is Richard Harrison. And well, as we said, Richard Harrison claims he had a contract at IFT, that he only shot one movie, and then they used a lot of that footage in different movies, and that they did. But it's the matter of how much he was aware of and how much they really used and abused his footage. I mean, clearly they did. They reused some stuff rather lazily and put him up as star or special star in movies that just had newly dubbed footage of him on the phone or stuff like that. But the thing is, sources do tell us that he knew what IFD were up to a degree. He claimed he was there in Hong Kong for a couple of months and shot a movie or 2 movies. But it's so much random footage with so much different hairstyles and facial hair and no facial hair. So I guess, do you think he is in the right in saying that he was only there for one stint and he's squeaky clean and innocent and totally abused? Or do you think Richard is over-exaggerating a bit here?
What, are you kidding? Of course I don't believe him. And no, I've heard from more than one source that he was there at least on 2 occasions and probably to shoot several movies on each.
You can see his energy level drop through the years. Watch Ninja Commandments. He's not there anymore. He's not enjoying himself anymore. He's a bit more active here. And when you see Majestic Thunderbolt, where he plays a bad guy, he's having a ball. He's clearly enjoying torturing this guy in the dental chair and crap like that in Majestic Thunderbolt. So I mean that's energy during the first stint, I suppose, from Richard Harrison, and then as the movies went on, he might have been. I don't know how fair it is to say he was totally aware, just mildly aware. But again, he's playing the victim role a little bit too much for, in my personal opinion. They did some ill things against him, of course, but not that. He must have been in on or aware of some of it at least. But hey, that's where we are. We got the good entertainment based on the fact that he's not present at all. And in those movies that he is present, it looks rather good on him in a way. Like Majestic Thunderbolts, he looks good. And even though this is a step down from his Italian career, maybe, but still, I'd cherish this part of his filmography a tiny bit if I were Richard Harrison. But hey, that's just me. Right, where, by the way, it's been a while since we passed it, but I'm just going to say it anyway. There was a car with some spray paint on it in an earlier scene it looked like it said janitor for some reason.
It looks like June Lol.
Whatever that means.
Yeah.
But yeah, and also an earlier stunt, like the stunt where, again, Yao Mingyan, flips over a car. I think he starts like resting on the pavement. I'm just gonna lay down here. Oh my god, a car! And then he has to do that awesome stunt. So, I mean, he's something else, and yeah. But do you think this movie represents Richard Harrison still putting forth a little bit of professionalism and energy for an IFD movie?
Yeah, I think so. Just from the fact that he has some energy and, roughing up dudes and so forth. I mean, yeah, sure. Yeah,
we're heading into the last stretch of the movie. There's even if it's 15 minutes left, doesn't mean we get a 15-minute finale with tons of ninja stuff. But hey, they stayed true to the fact that they're shooting almost an entire movie here, 80% of their own movie, and they didn't grow bored after half a movie or anything like that. This was a curious follow through by IFD that I don't think I've seen them do again. Actually, I can't think of an example off the top of my head that I've seen anywhere where IFD did most of the footage.
No. I like the bit that just passed where Gordon says, "I want to meet with you and fight you guys," and the guy looks over at Stuart Smith, and Stuart Smith has this look in his face like, "What? No."
We were having such a good time sitting here. Do we have to go out and do stuff?
Why would I fight this guy I don't know? No.
Rudolph. And Rudolph is working on his heroin smuggling routes, going through Russia and stuff like that. And no one's ever done that. But Rudolph is a maniac.
First.
Good. There you go. There's an Australian accent that I'm only going to attempt one delivery, which is my favorite delivery of Stuart Smith's, and it might not even be in an Australian accent, but there's a wonderful piece of dialogue coming up after Richard and crew have torched, and boy do they torch the drugs. Yeah, it's good fun. I don't know how much time we have to talk of the other lead in the Taiwan movie, Ma Sha or Taturma, which is our villain that we see every now and again, the leader of the Union, and he had a sex scene earlier, and he's bound to turn up here in the finale, I believe. There's not a kung fu exchange or anything, but in essence, I don't think I have time to go through it, he was and still is a character that transferred to movie credits in a turbulent manner. Both his movies and his real life is kind of turbulent. But Ma Sha's real name is Liu Jianchen, and his teens were dominated by criminal activity, and he was sentenced before adulthood for a variety of things, including theft. They got a 6-month prison sentence as a young man in 1965 for stealing, and he even hatched an escape plan at that time, but was caught. And on it went. He had quite a rep at one point in Taiwan as quite an extravagant criminal, a bit of a pimp, essentially, living the pimp lifestyle. But a letter of repent that he wrote in 1969 as a young man included a desire to find his father. And this was somehow picked up by the media. And eventually, because it had an emotional hook, and so he got a little bit of fame. But he still continued his criminal path in the 70s. But the main component of Ma Sha's story is when he became aware of a best-selling book about handicapped law graduate Zhang Fengxi, and that made Liu or Ma Sha want to emulate the book and write about his own life. And no publisher took the bait, but a journalist did, and published it as a 3-part article. It didn't really create ripples as such, so Liu or Ma Sha and his business associates hired university scholars to rewrite his story ending up with 4 versions of a book called The First Error Step. It was also sexied up a bit, making Lou less of a low-life criminal and more into a big boss. And I gotta love the fire here. Like, like they torched the grass a little bit, and then it looked like the basis for a huge grass fire or forest fire. Like when they